Hey everyone, right before this episode starts, I want to say thank you for all the feedback you gave me in episode 1. It meant so much to me seeing how many people enjoyed the episode. Please continue to give your feedback and keep listening to the podcast. On today's episode of Behind the Mic. Because one of the biggest issues when it comes to conventional vehicles that are powered by gas is the pollution that it causes and its effects to global warming. So now you have the conventional vehicles who require oil, and you have the electric vehicles who require coal. A lot of people are willing to spend the extra money for their gas-powered vehicles. Whether electric vehicles are better for the environment or whether they're good for the environment. And I believe because of the sudden downturn that the market will continue to grow and over the next couple of years will become bigger and bigger. Whew! We made it to episode 2! Apparently most podcasts don't make it to episode 7. Right now, we're on episode 2, so we got 5 more to go. We got this. Today I want to talk about going electric when it comes to transportation and vehicles, because right now we're seeing a giant economic shift in our economy and as well as in our culture. I think a lot of people are going to be making different decisions when it comes to their finances, and they're going to want to act smarter. And one of those areas that they're going to start rethinking will be their cars and their transportation. Because transportation can be a huge financial burden, and when you also have other options that are environmentally friendly, because 10 years ago, the market for electric vehicles didn't really exist, and over the past 4 or 5 years, it has began to grow, and now it's beginning to grow even more and more, and I believe because of the sudden downturn, that the market will continue to grow, and over the next couple of years will become bigger and bigger. One of the groups of people that I think this will be most beneficial to is students. Because I'm a student and I actually drive electric. I drive an electric moped. We'll specifically get into what kind of electric vehicles you should go for and the benefits of each and the negatives. But first I wanted to sort of just do a little bit of compare and contrast between the costs and benefits of electric vehicles versus more conventional vehicles. Because that's really what it comes down to when considering whether you would go electric or for a more conventional gas-powered vehicle. It's which one has more pros than cons for each person. Because I'm not one of those electric cars for everyone type of people. I'm not saying everyone should go electric. I think regular cars and gas-powered cars are fine. People can do what they want. I'm certainly not out to get anyone. And I don't think it's a bad thing if people want to stay with their gas-powered vehicles. But just to start off, one of the biggest debates that goes on with this topic is whether electric vehicles are better for the environment or whether they're good for the environment. A lot of people who have electric vehicles will say that their vehicle is really good for the environment and blah blah blah, and they'll go on and on about all the benefits. I come sort of in between those people and conventionalists, where I say that neither electric cars or conventional vehicles are good for the environment, but I definitely think that electric cars are a lot better for the environment. Because one of the biggest issues when it comes to conventional vehicles that are powered by gas is the pollution that it causes and its effects to global warming. Now, one of the biggest things when it comes to conventional vehicles is pollution that they cause and its effect on the environment and also global warming, because pollution can have a very negative impact on the air and the soil and water that it comes into contact with. And it also makes it very dangerous for human health and for people who are walking around in the surrounding areas, where now people are breathing in polluted air and it's no longer clear, and it can cause people to have severe health issues. And you also have all the oil mining that is required for the fuel to power these vehicles. That being said, on the other side of the spectrum, electric vehicles don't come without their environmental pollutants either. Because electric vehicles don't have an engine, but they have a massive battery in them. And that battery is not very environmentally friendly for multiple reasons. The first one is that these batteries don't have an infinite lifespan. Once they have been completely used up, you can't recycle them, because batteries aren't recyclable, because they contain a bunch of toxic chemicals. Because in the battery that is put into an electric vehicle, it contains a bunch of chemicals including cadmium, lead, lithium, especially sulfuric acid. You don't want to dump these anywhere. You have to keep them contained, and they'll eventually just start to rot away. And that has a very negative impact on the environment as well. But also, electric vehicles require a lot of electricity, and that requires a lot of coal mining as well. So now you have the conventional vehicles who require oil, and you have the electric vehicles who require coal. And neither of these are very environmentally friendly. Both ends don't do very well when it comes to the environment. However, when comparing both the pros and the cons, I do think that the electric vehicles have a slight advantage over which ones can minimize environmental waste. Now, obviously, you have different kinds of electric vehicles. You can have electric cars, but you can also have electric scooters. I think one of the biggest groups that will look into getting electric vehicles will be students. And a big reason for that will be financial costs. We'll get into how electric cars can be cheaper than gas-powered cars, but I want to go a little bit into electric scooters. I'm a student, and I actually drive an electric scooter to school, and I think it's awesome. I have a lot of fun with it. The biggest reason why I drive it is because financially it is such a benefit. If you're a student and you don't need a car per se, I would highly suggest that you get a scooter because there's no fuel cost. So you don't have to pay for gas. You don't have insurance on an electric scooter, so you don't have any monthly insurance costs either. Now, for the teenagers and those who go to high school, maybe you don't have your driver's license yet. You don't need a license for an electric scooter. So that was huge. That was one of the reasons why I got my first electric scooter a couple of years ago. Is because I didn't have my license. I needed a way to go to school. My parents were going to drive me, so I bought a scooter and I started driving myself. You also have a lot easier parking. There's a lot more options for parking space, and there's a lot more parking space available. And a lot of the time, it's a cheaper purchase than a car. Because I think for most students, when they're looking for a car, most average students have a budget of a couple $1,000s, maybe a little less. But electric scooters have a very wide range of pricing and quality. But you can get a lot of good scooters for under $1,000, which is very manageable. Also, if you want to spend a little more, you can get a bigger battery and you can get a little higher quality. But I think it all works out. But that's for scooters. Not most people don't want to get a scooter. Scooters just look silly when you ride them, blah, blah. I get it. I totally get it. But when it comes to electric cars, they can be cheaper. Now, obviously, it depends on where you live and the kind of vehicle that you get. But for the most part, electric vehicles do cut on some costs. The biggest one would be fuel costs. You don't have any weekly or monthly fuel costs when you go to the gas station. But that being said, you do need to charge the battery. And if you would buy an electric vehicle, you can expect that your electrical bill will go up. But in most cases, the increase in your electrical bill, it does not override the amount of money that you would be spending on your fuel costs every month. There's a study done in 2018 by EnergySave.com, which said that the average cost to operate an electric vehicle in the United States was $485 per year, while the average for a gasoline-powered vehicle is $1,117. Obviously, that statistic varies quite a bit. And especially because when it comes to the oil market and oil pricing, it varies so much where oil prices will change every week. Sometimes they're higher, sometimes they're lower. It really depends. And a big thing is a lot of people are willing to spend the extra money for their gas-powered vehicles. I know a lot of truck people who love their V8 engine. They love all the benefits of a gas-powered truck. So it's really up to what you want, what you personally want, what you think is important, what the pros and cons are. But to be fair, having an electric vehicle isn't all sunshine and rainbows, because we'll get into the weather part. But really, one of the cons for any electric vehicle that you have a limited battery life. Now, you can when you have a gas-powered vehicle, you can just fuel up and you can keep going. If you are low on gas, you just get to the nearest gas station, you can fuel up in 5 minutes, and then you can go along on your way. With an electric vehicle, when you run out of battery, you need to wait a couple hours to charge it. And these chargers are not everywhere, so you have to make sure that before you run out of battery, that you know a place where you can charge your vehicle. Then you have to wait a couple hours, and then you can keep going. Not gonna lie, that kind of sucks. For a lot of people, they don't want to wait that long, especially if you're on road trips. That can take a lot of time, and then you're just stuck waiting. But for a lot of people, they can drive just fine with their electric vehicles during the day, and then when they come home in the evening, they charge it overnight, and it's ready again in the next day following. Now, a lot of my friends like to go off-roading with their trucks and their vehicles. That's another downside to electric vehicles, is that you can't go off-roading. They're built strictly for roads. If you go anything off of that, you're not going to have that great of a time. And you'll probably end up damaging your vehicle in some capacity. Quickly going back to the electric scooters for a second, just because I know that a lot of students watch this, and maybe some of them are interested in other transportation options for going to school. I live in British Columbia, and our weather fluctuates so much, and we have a lot of rain. We have a lot of rain throughout the year, but also, during the winter, it gets really, really cold. So I always bundle up. And when it rains, you know, you're gonna get wet. There's no way to avoid it unless you want to build some sort of umbrella that goes over your entire moped. You know, I've seen that a couple times. And that is a downside to it. You also have the limited storage capacity, which is why a lot of people do like like a regular car. Either way, that is my take on electric vehicles. Let me know what you guys think down below, whether you drive electric or gas, why you choose either one, and why you think that one is better than the other. Unfortunately, that is all I have time for today. I hope you enjoyed. There's another episode coming out later this week, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next time.